Greetings, this is the Get to Free Press. I'm George Boster Ryan. I'm down here at Serenity Church. And you all know me, I often run across some strange people in my walk in the state of Georgia, and I just ran across a young man. What's your name?
Jeremy Henry.
Jeremy Henry. What do you do, brother?
Oh, I'm serving people, lifting society, and changing lives one person at a time.
All right. And if you don't mind, what brings you to Valdosta and what have you in this office today? What's your agenda today?
Sure. Let me first start off by saying thank you for this opportunity to speak with you, Dr. Rhymes. I have watched and admired your ministry and the things that you've contributed to the community here abroad, the enormous outreach that you have gathered and been able to give us the information needed to fight justice and to complete the work of society, and certainly your impact is enormous, and I'd like to just say thank you for this opportunity. It is certainly an honor to speak to your community there and to be able to express some concerns and those things that have plagued our community today. I am a native of Valdosta, Georgia. Here, I was born in a city called Adel, Georgia. I don't know if you ever heard of Adel.
Yeah, I heard of it once. And what's your name?
Jeremy Q. Henry.
How do you get a name like that? I don't know many people with that have a name.
Well, my aunt, Miss Kathy James, she named me, and she just liked the name. And the Q stands for Kwame, which means noble one. And I think it's a very unique name. It's also derived from Kwame, the African name, which I believe means born on Saturday or Tuesday, one of the others.
Okay.
But although you may be named something, you also have to define yourself. And I've always tried to define myself as one who has integrity, one who leads by example. And if there's something I can do to encourage and inspire other people, my 7th and 9th grade teacher and my college professor, the late Dr. Charles Ward, used to say, "You can't lose with the stuff I use." And he wrote on the board so religiously, he would say, "I want to inspire until I expire." And that's what I aim to do. Has become one of my philosophies of living. That is to inspire people until we expire. So certainly the name is your brand, and I'm hoping to at some point and be able to build and to leave a legacy that my children and nieces and nephews and those that have come behind me will have an opportunity to see the enormous work that we've done. Preaching opportunities at this sacred institute where we train them in prophetic tradition.
Now that we have the truth, let's see if we can be people who really care about humanity. Let's build a world anew, uplift society.
Explain the banner behind you, brother. What's that all about, man?
Yes, Save Our Children, Inc. is a nonprofit organization started in 1978 by Reverend Floyd E. Rose and his wife, first wife, Miss Ann Rose, there in Toledo, Ohio. Save Our Children initially began for the advancement of young people throughout the Toledo area, where youngsters who wanted to advance and have opportunity to soar and to be scholars and have opportunity to advance in society. Reverend Rose had a vision for those young people, and there which branched out and Save Our Children was born and birthed at the hem of Family Baptist Church. And now, at the hem of our leadership, Save Our Children is advancing to new horizons, and we're here now located in the beautiful city of Valdosta, Georgia, the Center for Social Change here at 1619 North Lee Street. And Reverend Rose is still actively involved and engaged, and we're so thankful for this opportunity to serve and to share and to inspire youngsters through Save Our Children efforts.
And where you say to start it at, And have it completely transitioned to Valdosta as far as the headquarters, or how does that work?
Sure. Currently, right now, the headquarters of Save Our Children is housed in Valdosta, Georgia, 1619 North Lee Street. There composes in the facility that's 10,000 square feet. There, African American Museum for the history and preservation of African American music and arts. Also, there social services and engaging in various opportunities for the advancement of society. Many of our board members span from New York to DC, and in the Midwest there in Wisconsin, Milwaukee being another hub for Save Our Children. And so the base work of Save Our Children and the office of Save Our Children is here in Valdosta, Georgia, but it expands throughout the country.
Mr. Henry, you are a young man, and I've been knowing Reverend Rose since the late 90s, and I really would like for you to expound on how did you connect up with this civil rights legend, Reverend Floyd E. Rose?
Absolutely.
And his association to this.
Yes. Reverend Floyd Rose, from afar, I've always admired and have always considered a hometown hero. I think it was about the age of 17 or 18. I had the opportunity to hear him give a speech at a tribute for Martin Luther King Jr. at a local congregation here. And following up with that, I reached out to him, a very personable person, reached out to him in this very office, and I was able to come here. I believe his cousin Mac Rose was here. And we sat down and had a wonderful conversation. And from there on, we just, one thing led to another. It was, I want to say, kindred spirits. If he's 82, then I'm about 72. And so every day we run around and various community events, and he serves, and still today, as a very vital, essential part in my life, a mentor, a confidant, and his outreach is enormous. He started not only to Save Our Children, but the Serenity Christian Church at the age of 71. And I want to say that was in November of 2009. And in January of 2011, I began to aid and to assist him here as his minister of music. And later that year, I was turning, or maybe the year after that, I was turning 19 or so, where I was able to preach my very first sermon here in this sanctuary at Serenity Church. So a lot of my work in ministry encircles the influence of Reverend Floyd Rose. And so now to be able to come home after matriculating through Morehouse College from Princeton's seminary there, I worked for years in the Midwest, Wisconsin, and so forth. And now the Lord has allowed us to come home and to be able to be a part of this initiative. And I'm so excited about that, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to serve such a wonderful, wonderful gentleman.
Mindful of our mission, the victory is near now. Now that we have.
So, what did you do in life to get the attention of Reverend Rose to move? Because I noticed on the sign it says something about CEO, and I think that's your name. What did you do to get that position within Save Our Children?
Well, I think that it's not necessarily one thing that you do. I think it's a way that you live. And I think that a person has to be inspired to a mission and a cause that drives a common bond and a common responsibility and aid. I think being at the hem of, in the shoulders and walking with Reverend Rose for a number of years gives me a unique position to then understand and to see his mission and life goal and heart. And whether CEO, president, or whatever is at the hem of my name, I understand that we're all called to be servants. And inasmuch that the greatest among you, the writer Jesus says, must be a servant. I think it is important that we lead in servanthood. And so, however that looks and whatever level that it ascends to for one's personal life, it is important that you always believe and always understand that God uses just ordinary people to do extraordinary things. And that's the trajectory and theme of my life. So to say, what is it that I've done or what is it that it looks like, I think that encircles this whole ideal of servanthood. I think that also encircles your life mission and call. It has to be a part of what you do. It has to be something that you were born to do. Benjamin Elijah May said, every man or woman was born to do something unique and distinctive. And if he or she never does that, it'll never be done. And so there comes a point in your life where you have to find that why for living. And it is said that the two most important days of your life is the day that you were born and the day that you found out why. And I think that the Save Our Children Inc. gives to me that why for living. It gives to me that strive and that determination to see youngsters who may not have been given the opportunity to succeed and to be successful. Those opportunities at the hem of being right here in the city that I was born or raised in, hence my own personal background, that I am a product of someone else's prayers. I'm the product of teachers who engaged Miss Cheryl Copeland, Miss Diane Thomas, and the list is extensive of educators and people who were influential in my life. And so all of this encircles here in this place an opportunity to give back. So I don't know if there's just a word or something that one would say that you did, but I think that Reverend Rose has dealt with people a lot, and there comes a moment where you have to trust the individual, and I count it as an honor. I count it as a privilege. I think that it is nothing more than the grace of God. If you want to see what the grace of God looks like, just look at me and look at my life, and I want to stay there and let my highest height be at Jesus' feet.
Jeremy, excuse me, but I need to say that at this juncture that I have interviewed quite a few people. I was honored in my early years of dealing with the camera and a radio broadcast. I interviewed Joseph Lowry, and you are kind of a slick fellow to me. And I use the term slick. It's because I noticed how you dotted your I's and crossed your T's a few minutes ago, and a lot of people, they don't have that. I'm going to explain what I mean. You thanked people, and I believe it was sincere, and that's what got me to ask this question. How are you so humble and you want to recognize the people so honestly who helped you to get where you are?
I think that it is there's an old ancient proverb that says it's a poor frog that doesn't praise his own pond. To say that many of my accomplishments was merely because of my own achievements would be simply not the truth. And I think that it is important to admonish and praise people while they can hear you. And it's not anything to be embarrassed of, because those people encircle your journey. And it is the prayers of people and individuals who believed in me when I had no reason to believe in myself.
Excuse me, before you go further, you may want to remove your hat, because I'm finna turn the air conditioner on.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
And I believe that as we move forward in any way, in any part of our lives, we have to remember those who labored and gave us opportunity. I think it was Bishop T.D. Jakes who said that opportunity given to us is God's gift to us. But what we do with that opportunity is our gift back to God. And I want to be found faithful in whatever opportunities that are presented to me, inasmuch while being found faithful, to remember that you are the results of someone else's prayers. And so along that journey, as we lift, as we climb, we must lift as we climb. And we must reach back. And that's the whole motto of Save Our Children, the whole concept. To reach back, the syncopa, which is a part of the logo, to reach back to that which may be at risk of being lost. And I think that it is so important that when we thank people for what they've done, and when we show thanksgiving and gratitude, that's one sin, as Reverend Rose often says when he is preaching, that I want to never be guilty of, is the sin of ingratitude and just saying thank you. Not to get anything out of it, not to be praised or admonished for saying that, but the truth is just the truth. And the truth should be celebrated. If an individual didn't come in through a back door, they shouldn't have to be celebrated through a back door. They should be openly, and it should be understood that it is because of their contributions that we are where we are today. And I think that drives my motivation to go back and say thank you, because many of them did not have to do what they did. And I'm sincerely and forever grateful and in debt to those individuals. Okay. Namely, my parents, my mom, who was the first one to believe in me, who gave me opportunity, who has never told me that I couldn't do anything. Whatever dream or goal I had, she was always encouraging. And many days she labored and worked tirelessly so that myself and my siblings would not go without. And that is to say that to have a good home and a good mom and a good family. My mother raised us after being widowed at the early age of 33, and then remarrying later to an outstanding gentleman who I couldn't love more if he was my own flesh and blood. But in that unification and that raising and rearing gave us the opportunity to advance and to be successful, and I'm forever grateful for that.
Okay, I'm about to put my blinker on to get off on the exit,
Well,
to get ready to close this out, okay? And
Take your time.
Before I do that, I don't want it to be too long, but what I would like for you to do is to, number one, let me know if you have a website, phone number, or anything for the people. I have 5,000 subscribers and almost 2 million views around the world, not only the United States. So if somebody wanted to contact Save Our Children, how could they do that?
Sure. You can contact Save Our Children by simply, one, giving us a phone call at 229-244-1863. 242-1863. Am I right, Reverend Rose? 241-1863. I get my twos mixed up. You can give us a call here from 9 to 3 o'clock. And you can also email us at saveourchildren, take out the L, saveourchildren.org, or you can follow us on Facebook at SOC Today, which means Save Our Children Today. That's on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram at SOC Today. That is SOC Today, and also on Twitter at SOC Today. And we'd love for you to be a part. We're taking applications for membership. Right now our membership is a $10 donation to be a part, which we know $10 is not a lot. I mean, when you go to Wendy's or Chick-fil-A, that's a burger. But to be a part, we're just asking that you be willing to help us to advance and to be able to be committed to the work and efforts to be able to give back to those youngsters. And there's a 5-year membership where 5 years you can sign up for $50, and there you'll receive one of our t-shirts. We're not in the business of getting rich or making a name for ourselves, but we're really in the business of helping individuals and giving back to the community. And we would love for you to be a part of that and to have opportunity to advance with us as we grow and soar to new horizons.
Mr. Jeremy, do you have any events scheduled to come up or anything of that nature, number one? And number two, will you all accept me as a member?
Absolutely. You can certainly be a member. And we will sign you up today for the 5-year term. Praise God for your commitment and dedication to the work and efforts of Save Our Children. Our most recent event will be partnered with the People's Tribunal and several other organizations in Valdosta in the renaming of the Forest Street here. Saturday at 9 p.m. we'll meet at downtown Valdosta, and we will commence there at the Park and Forest Street intersection, where we'll have festivities and music and speakers and food, and we will practice social distancing. Of course, with the COVID-19 restrictions, there are things that we have to consider. And in the near future, it is our hope and goal to commence some of the annual events that we've done traditionally with Save Our Children, as in the tribute to Dr. King, which is usually around his birthday month, a tribute to Rosa Parks, and the community event that we give as a banquet of celebration to those individuals who've made contributions to this local body. One new initiative that we're excited about is the Azalea City Fellows Program, where we will engage and have people from all over to come in and to be a part of something like a golf tournament, and there which we're able to garner funds for young people from this area who want to advance in college and opportunities, so that we can kind of aid in scholarships and funding so that they can be successful. Again, this is just what it is what you see. And we have no games, no gimmicks, and we want you to be a part of this. And we want you to have a ham on it. And if you can't donate to us, if you can, it is 501c3. You can write it off on your taxes. But if you can't donate with money, please consider donating your time and efforts by simply sharing this video, sharing a post, sharing a flyer, calling a neighbor, calling a friend, telling them that we're on the move, that we're not just sitting by waiting for someone else to make the decisions, but we are here at the hem of this movement, trying to advance our community in a way that's forward and that is progressive. So certainly those are ways that you can contact us and you can connect with us. I'll be waiting to hear from you.
Okay, will you close out in prayer, please?
Certainly. Our Father and our God, we want to thank you for your grace, your mercy, your love, and your kindness. Thank you, dear Lord, that you've given us the opportunity to come together, to strategize and to be build success for the future. Lord, as we reach back to save that which is at danger of being lost, we pray, oh God, for your guidance and your direction. Bless, O Lord, Brother George Rhymes as he continues to put out the good news and the good gospel to men, women, boys, and girls throughout this nation. Look on Reverend Rose and his family. Father, as we unify together as one body, we want to do what is right and what is pleasing to thee. And we will give no one else the praise and the glory but you and you alone. In your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Thanks be to God. Amen.
Amen. And this is the Get To Free Press. I'm George Foster Rhymes, and we report what others ignore. Peace be unto you. It is a high honor for me to interview a Morehouse graduate here in Valdosta and at Serenity Church, a historic building, an institution and black museum under the leadership of a man that I idolize in terms of proper understanding, and that's Reverend Floyd E. Rose. May God bless you and have a smile upon you. This is the Get To Free Press. I'm George Foster Rhymes, and we just finished the interview, but we decided to take a short walk through the museum here, and I want you all to journey along with us as we go live, and of course this will be added to the video that we just finished doing. Once again, it's George Foster Rhymes, the Get To Free Press, and today is August the 25th, 2020. This is at Serenity Church. How you doing today again, my brother?
Doing well. How are you, my brother?
All right. You decided to do a short tour. We don't give too much. We want the people to come to the museum, but just give us a short view. Anything you want to talk about, just talk to us.
Sure. This is an African-American museum for preservation of African American music and arts. This wall we have our founder, Reverend Floyd E. Rose. Some of his accomplishments as he began the Family Baptist Church in Toledo, Ohio. There in Toledo, he and his former wife that passed or transitioned, Miss Ann Rose, they began the Family Baptist Church. You'll see her in this picture here. family was one of the many churches that Reverend Rose founded, namely the church at Pine Hill here in Valdosta, and the newly established, about 10 years now, the Serenity Christian Church here in Valdosta, Georgia. Here, this wall, you'll see a lot of individuals who made contributions to Black history, and this was actually done by one of the trusted members of this local congregation, Deacon Ramsey. He's 85, 87 years old, and he created these.
And they call that in 3D form, right?
3D form, yes, sir. And if you go down, you'll see various articles and newspaper writings, namely the Kendra Johnson rally that was held here a few years ago. Reverend Al Sharpton came here to the museum. And this wall, again, is redundant with those individuals. And right here to my right is the beginning of the museum, where we bring young people here and kind of have them to talk about various rappers or individuals who they seem to be interested in and how they've engaged, and that kind of conversation happens here in this room. If you go down to my left, there are various stages as it relates to the museum, and many of whom we celebrate today. Starting from the Out of Africa experience, come down to this room in particular. You'll see here, am I talking too fast?
You're fine.
You'll see here that this is the Out of Africa experience. So we have many exhibits here that were actually from Africa, because our people went through chattel slavery, and we were kings and queens.
You said it went through what?
Chattel slavery.
What that mean?
Chattel slavery means that those individuals were enslaved individuals, not slaves like many people would like to assert, but they were enslaved people. They were a part of a system that was much larger than what they could even be in control of. They were victims of a crooked and cruel society. And as we tell the story of our ancestors, and we tell the story of those who traveled the many seas and shores, only the strong survived. So we are the results of those individuals. And here we're able to sit back and talk about those effects and things that happened along that passage. I want to show you a very interesting piece of the museum very shortly. When we come back to this, I'm going to bring this back to this room, which is one of my favorite rooms. But as we walk through various individuals, Abraham Lincoln, who signed the Emancipation Proclamation, that apparently was supposedly freed African Americans from being enslaved in 1863. 1863 is a unique number. I want to explain that as we go through the tour. Again, as we travel through this exhibit, we stop here to a room that's dedicated to local individuals that had involvement in the community here in Georgia, Valdosta, Georgia. Southside businesses, owners, grocery stores, community services. At one point, there were over 60 businesses by African Americans on the south side of Valdosta. And because of the bridge that was built there, many of those establishments are no longer existent. The largest establishments for African Americans now in this town is the funeral home and the church. However, we have been able to capture some of these extraordinary exhibits and extraordinary things that African Americans did in this community, and should be admonished and praised and also remembered. So this room is dedicated to that. As we channel through, there are various people on this wall. Mary McLeod Bethune, the founder of Bethune-Cookman College, HBCU. This is the Harlem Renaissance walking through this time in history, the literary and intellectual flowers that fostered the black community. Civic engagement, the Harlem Renaissance movement was significant in the lives of African Americans because it pictured these drawings, these paintings, this music, sculpture, music, and it really displayed African Americans in our just rare, unique ability to communicate our heritage. And so you see a piano here. When the museum is actually open because of COVID, but when the museum is actually open, we have the exhibits and wax kind of things going through there, so that individuals can be inspired and encouraged through this particular venue. And as we channel through, we get through the modern day civil rights movement, which is in 1950s, 1960s.
Let me interrupt you here, 1960. But let me interrupt you. When you were giving this tour, how long does it normally take? Just happen. You know?
Depending on the crowd of people, it could take up to an hour or so, but not much longer after that. Yeah. Our civil rights movement started from 1949 and until I would say it's the present issues that are at hand. But here, historically, we have to 1978. Namely, one of the most noted events that happened during that time was in 1955 when Rosa Parks took her seat December the 1st and the Montgomery bus boycott began there in Alabama. Well, previously to that, in August of that same year, a young man from Chicago by the name of Edmund Till was brutally murdered by individuals in Money, Mississippi. And Rosa Parks said, I remember that young man. And because of that, I decided that I was tired of being abused, tired of just being told what to do. So she made up her mind that day that she wasn't going to give up her seat on the bus. And that channeled a whole length of civil rights engagements as it relates to protests and Fannie Lou Hamer and various individuals. September the 15th, the 4 girls who were killed in the Birmingham bombing. There were 6 individuals there. 4 were killed and died there. The 1955 shut-ins, bus boycotts, Beulah Baptist Church. We see pictures of these individuals here. Barbara Jordan, who was a part of the Civil Rights Museum and U.S. House of Representatives. Of course, Mayor Evers, who, if he was still living, he would be well in his 90s or so, but he passed, was murdered at the age of 37 there in Mississippi. And the list is extensive and enormous of individuals. And this particular picture is very unique because in this picture you will see Martin Luther King Jr.'s attorney, who is Fred Gray. And I have a picture with he standing right here in this spot. Myself, he and Pastor Rose, Reverend Rose there. This room is dedicated to wise sages and people who made wise investments and enormous contributions, namely Jesus the Christ. We see Jesus through our own eyes in this museum. We teach young people that Jesus is not just a white man with blonde hair, but Jesus had eyes like balls of fire, feet like brass wool, hair like lamb wool. And so we identify Jesus with our culture, and people being able to identify Jesus with their culture can see him in a more relatable way. And so individuals like Susan B. Anthony, who said, cautious, careful people never change anything, not even their own minds.
Who's this man over in the corner?
This man over here is a very unique brother. He is in a class all by himself, I would say. His name is the Reverend Floyd E. Rose, who is not only a legend in this town, but a legend across the United States of America. He had the vision for this Save Our Children and the African American Museum here. Moral and social skills are necessary as academic achievements. Dr. Rose, Reverend Rose, the Floyd E. Rose, is a silent, unsung hero. This gentleman here, Billy Saul Estes, was very instrumental in his educational pursuits. Floyd Rose is driven by the philosophy of love and treating those how you want to be treated. And that is his life legacy and his life mission. if we see here the many things.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Who you say this is?
Billy Saul Estes.
He's a black man?
White man.
How can Rose be a racist, as they often call him, when he had such an important figure as this man in his life, and who supported much of his education?
Absolutely. Well, that obviously is their false statements there. We see that Reverend Rose, many of his close friends and people who invested in him were not of the same identification or color or creed as he, but he saw the Jesus or the love of Christ in him, and as a child, this man, Billy Saul Estes, was very instrumental in the development of Floyd Rose. He even preached his eulogy just a few years ago, and so that speaks to the care and the concern that how much he meant to Reverend Rose. Reverend Rose, this wall, we see here Rose shuts down Snow White. Rose stands his ground in shutdown. The imaginary letter for Dr. King was given a speech given throughout the country by Save Our Children, sponsored by Save Our Children. Black leadership, he was the president of NAACP. Push and Jesse Jackson, they all worked on initiatives together, starting the first credit union there in Toledo, Ohio. And the list is extensive of the major contributions that he made in the world and in the days. And so a proclamation here given by the mayor of the city of Valdosta that they have set aside April the 22nd, that weekend of the 22nd, until that entire week commences as Floyd E. Rose Days.
Who's this young man right here?
Oh man, I don't know if you are ready really to know about who this young man is. I don't know if you even really understand the magnitude of this young man. This man here, name can be found in the Bible over 5-6 times. Barak is a Hebrew origin, which means a flash of light. In Judges in the Bible, it means a flash of light. And in a time of this world, in this time, in our society, the things that are going on in the world, we need that light, that flash. And Barack Obama, the first black president of these United States, was indeed that for America, and has always been that flash, that light, that hope to be able to bring to a dark society light and hope, and to live in liberty and justice again. This, my friends, is the first black president of the United States of America, Barack Obama. And of course, we celebrate him as our forever president, and we are not ashamed to say that. This room goes on with individuals who contributed to the civil rights movement, lawyers, doctors, friends, and this room is dedicated to...
It's like a knockout over here.
Oh yeah, that's a knockout, my friend. Yeah. Muhammad Ali, Mr. Cassius Clay in his son. Yes, sir. We come here, we develop our religious life and community. It's not just enough. Let's actually go around the other way. It's not just enough to talk about civil rights, but many of the contributions of African Americans in civil rights was in the whole and hem of the black church. And so at Save Our Children Museum, we think that it is also important that we develop the spiritual life of young people, inasmuch that we have dedicated a sanctuary here. We call it the Serenity Sanctuary, where God grants us the serenity to accept the things we can't change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Why don't you just go right in there, Brother Wimes? This is our Serenity Chapel here at the Conference Center, and we believe that it is divinely inspired of God. This was built in the protest of the Church of the Nazarene. The Church of the Nazarene was a church that built their churches in protest of slavery. And what you see here is the whole of the slave ship boat turned upside down. And the street that this building is on is 1619. 1619 being the first year that the first slave boat landed in Jamestown, Virginia. Ironically, that boat was named Jesus. 1619 North Lee Street. North Lee Street being named after the Confederate General Robert E. Lee, who tried to keep us in slavery. And the phone number here is 1863 241 1863. 1863 being the year that the first Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. All of this embodies what we're trying to do in the efforts here to save our children. I want you to be engaged. I want you to be a part of this. Follow us at SOC Today, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can also Cash App us at SOC Today. You can bring your contributions to our 501c3 nonprofit organization to be tax write-off. And we want you to be a part of what we're trying to do here in the city of Valdosta, Georgia. Thank you so much.
No. Two other things, my beautiful brother. Number one, explain again about the hull of the slave ship and embodiment of the slaves in terms of the Nazarene Church. And then I do want to go in that other building where we have something.
Yes, sir. Shackled and bound together for over 6 months, 3 to 6 months, if longer. Blacks, Africans were chained by their ankles and their feet and their hands and forced to live in a space of this magnitude without any air conditioning, without the proper nutrition. And for those months, women and men, as their bodies went through changes and various issues, was all the stench and smell of that was all within this hall. And those individuals, many of whom they had thousands of people on buses or on the boats, and many of whom only 1 or 2 survived the passages. And so some of the strongest ones survived these horrible conditions. And so what you see here is a replica of that very thing. And none of this was by happenstance. It just divinely inspired when Reverend Rose purchased this building, that this would be the history behind this building.
Okay.
And we have one room I'd like to show you that's very dear. We call it a very special room because it's dedicated to an individual who made enormous inroads in society. And that is none other than my Morehouse brother, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
And they call this room what?
The Martin Luther King Jr. Chapel. Okay. Moral leadership. Here we tutor and mentor young people. Preaching opportunities at this sacred desk where we train them in a prophetic tradition of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Because it's not just enough for us to be preachers. We must be preachers who have a prophetic voice and lend our voice to change and justice. So this is where many youngsters have come and been able to be developed. In this
While we are here, Brother Henry.
Yes, sir.
Since we're here, that's something that we all can identify recently, and that's the Equipment 10+2, who was brought up on bogus voter fraud charges in January 21st, 2010. And I was in Atlanta when they called these people and charged 12 people on voter fraud. To make a long story short, not to consume time, you can find that on my channel, Boston G.B.R, the history of the Equipment 10+2. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So this is what we have here. Again, we want to encourage you to come and to see it for yourself. We have space here for events. If you need to rent out facility space for your programming or for a event you'd like to have, please contact us. We're more than happy to assist you. Thank you, Brother Rhymes.
Once again, this is the Get To Free Press. I'm George Boss Rhymes, and I'm impressed by the tour. I've come through here many times, but I just thank God for the way Jeremy laid that out for you all who are tuning in. Catherine Harris and Alex Robertson, my beautiful brother. Thank you all for tuning in. Some of you all, when I come on, you tune in. And I want to thank you for that. Once again, to Get to Free Press, I'm George Boss Ryan. And before I go, let me step back in here. I'd like to mention this to you all before we close this out here. He talked about the hull of the ship, and I just want to say to many of you that you may have never noticed it, but the people who wear the dashikis, and you see they have that shape on their dashiki, and it have little lines across it. Well, your dashikis that you wear is the same symbolism that you're looking at here. And on the dashiki that you wear, you don't know it, but on that dashiki is the embodiment of a slave ship. And most of them have lines across it representing the people. But many people wear the dashikis don't even consider that what they have on that dashiki are people that are in the hull of slave ships coming across the water to be put in prison. Thank you all for listening. May God bless you, and may we be a blessing to one another. Bye-bye. We're gone.
The victory is near now. Now that we have the truth, let's see if we can be people who really care about humanity. Let's build a world anew, uplift society. It belongs to me and you, responsibility. We've had to face many problems, yeah. Sometimes even hang our heads in disgrace. There just wasn't any answers to the questions